So what are the three components of direct mail? And I would say that this probably can also spiral into telemarketing as well. The first one, as I think I've mentioned half a dozen times now, is the data. You want to make sure that the data that you're buying is the most accurate data it can be and as targeted as it possibly can be. And if you're using a list manager company or you're going out on Sales Genie, make sure that you look for ways to mitigate driving mail and sending information out to people who have no reason to know about you or care about using your product or service. Go back to my landscaper situation. I'm never going to buy a landscape, not in the house I have in New Jersey, yet I get, especially now, I'm getting 2 or 3 a week, and it's a waste of their money. And by the way, I'm not the only one getting it, right? Every person in my neighborhood is getting it, okay? The offer with them, what does that mean? Here's what that means. What's in it for me? That is the most critical thing that you can. Why are these people going to be, what's the most important thing for them? The most important thing for them, if I've targeted the right kind of person, why should they open this mail package? Why should they engage with you? Okay, and you've seen some of those strategies that Proponent has deployed to build this workshop series and to build and get you folks here in this room today. What's in it for you? Well, what's in it for you is you all told us lead generation was something that's important to you. So hopefully what you're going to get from this is some insights into how to go about that effectively, or at least to cause some way to think, to pique your curiosity about one way or another. Or at least just maybe even to give you a different way to viewpoint something. So what's in it for them? How do you want to get beyond the trash bin? Especially with direct mail, that's critical, right? That's a nanosecond, people taking it. What is this? What is this? It's right? But direct mail is growing, folks. There's more people using direct mail, and they're actually projecting it to have growth over the next 5 years. Creative. It needs to convey a message, and I used to get into huge arguments with clients and with my creative staff because they'd come to me with something that was really very pretty and it would look great in their portfolio, but it was meaningless, right? It didn't cover the detail I needed it to cover. It didn't have information that I felt it needed to have in order to make sure that the offer to the client was relevant. Just because something looks pretty doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be effective. Creative is important, but it's like the third thing that's important. The first thing is data. The second thing is your offer, your message. What's in it for them? The third thing is creative. And I can argue that point with anybody. I can send out a personalized letter in a personalized envelope for no money at all and get a higher response rate than somebody sending out you know, a three-dimensional box if the offer is not relevant. Okay? So here to that point, closed-faced and personalized, by far, throughout my years doing this, what we found was most effective in the world of direct mail was a simple, closed-faced envelope and a personalized letter in it, meaning the envelope was personalized with the person's name on it and the letter was matched and put in it. It sounds silly, but it basically has a very high response rate. You want it to have a higher response rate, put a live stamp on it. Because people are going to get that. They don't see mail like that all the time. They open it. You want another effective way to do it? If you have a small group of people you want to talk to, send it out in a U.S. priority envelope. Go to the post office and get a priority envelope. Doesn't cost that much. You got 10, 15 people you really want to talk to, send it to them a priority envelope. Send it out to them and then call them a couple of days later. Did you get my letter? Not only will they have gotten your letter, they will have opened it. Why? Because a priority letter hitting somebody's desk is not going to be ignored. Now what? Not a lot of creativity in that, but it works. I can guarantee that it works. Increased costs need to coincide with increased response. Okay, so let's go back to my thing about the 3D packaging. And I'm not saying 3D packaging is bad. I actually have an example later on that I'll talk to you about where it was incredibly valuable, but it also depends on what you're selling. So if I'm going to increase the cost of what I'm doing to send to you, I have to make sure that the response I get back is incrementally larger than what I would have gotten otherwise, because if it's not, my cost per appointments go up, my cost per sale goes up. So you have to keep a keen eye on that because you want to make sure that you're always on top of that. Okay, any questions about this?
I have what you're saying, instead of those really pretty nice postcards that we get that are larger than life sometimes,
yeah,
it's better and more economical to just do a letter in an envelope is better? I mean, is there any kind of feedback as to what works best as far as percentages?
So the question was, from what I've just said, where you know, personalized envelope, personalized letter, how does that, you know, because logic says, well, large, pretty well-designed self-mailers might have a higher response rate. And what I've told you now, it's counterintuitive, right? It's counterintuitive. The point is, if that pretty postcard that they get doesn't hit their what's in it for them, it's going to be garbage. The envelope, they're going to take time to open. They're going to open it. They're going to look at it. That's what's going to happen, folks. They're going to open it. They're going to look at it. And if you can tell them, like on your Johnson box, which was the box at the top, you know, this is why I'm writing to you today, you'll get a higher response rate. Take that, and instead of spending for the expensive postcard, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to do, but depending upon who you're talking to, instead of paying for the postcard, perhaps do a flyer that you put inside with the envelope. The flyer is going to have a longer life cycle than an oversized, in most cases, for most instances, is going to have a longer life cycle. Marty.
I have a question, because I'm trying to learn too. You mentioned a website, Sales Genie.
Yeah.
How does that compare to the traditional list leads generation? What's your experience with that? Have you been able to or target personalize it through the site like a Sales Genie, or do you have any difference between that and traditional leads and list generation?
Well, so here's the thing, folks. Sales Genie is really Info USA. Not everybody knows that, or Info Group as they're called now. Vin Gupta, the guy who owned Info USA, who ended up getting tossed from the company because of issues he had, he came up with an idea that he was going to market lead access, and their ad says, you know, come online, we'll give you 100 free leads. Go back to what I told you in the beginning. What was the definition of a lead? A lead is not necessarily knowing the 100 businesses in your metropolitan area that you want to talk to. That's not a lead. Those people in my world are suspects. They're suspects. Yeah. Now, Sales Genie basically says they're leads. We're going to give you 100 free leads. You hear that and think, oh, man. And then you go to your salespeople and say, how come you haven't closed any of those leads? And they say, these leads are crap. And go back and watch Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross. And I tell you, you're going to have a better understanding of what leads are. They're not leads. Those are suspects. They respond. They raise their hand. Now they're prospects. And depending upon how they raise their hands, they're now leads. And now you can cultivate relationships with them. You can start a dialogue with them. Sales Genie is one of many other platforms that are out there that allow you to tap in and look at databases, whether it's in the business to consumer, the B2C environment, or business to business environment.